Hello and welcome to Bolt Action Reloading. If you're interested in my attempt to use Scott Satterlee's 10-shot load development technique with the Hornady 143 grain ELD-X and Hodgdon H4831 shortcut, stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of the community here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post new videos and you won't miss anything. Now guys, if you haven't seen any of their videos in this series, I'll put a card up so you can check out the first video in this series, and it should give you a better idea of actually what we're doing here, and things will make a little bit more sense. But feel free to stick around if you like, and you can watch them later. So let me start off by telling you this is one of the videos that I thought about not putting out. Specifically because when we actually did this load development, we were actually fireforming the brass during the same time. In previous load testing, I found that by generating this velocity curve during the fireforming process, our velocity nodes tend to shift a little bit after the fireforming is complete. For that reason, I thought about not actually posting this information. However, seeing a video on GabinTube, aka Ultimate Reloader, he was actually doing the exact same thing, and so I thought I would not hide my data from the audience here as well. I'm unsure of how much of this data you will actually use or will want to generate, but it's here for the taking. And for the record, if you guys were going to duplicate something like this, I do recommend you actually perform it on fireformed brass through your standard reloading process. Full length sizing, trimming to length, primer pocket uniforming, whatever your process is, should be done to your brass prior to generating this velocity chart. So let's get into the load details, guys. The brass we used for today's load development was the initial firing on Starline small rifle primer brass. We used the Hornady 143 grain ELD-X, part number 2635. The cartridge overall length was 2.830 inches. We used Hodgdon H4831 shortcut, loaded from 43.6 grains all the way to 46 grains. The primer we chose for today's test was a CCI 450 small rifle magnum primer. So guys, you can look at the chart. Our velocity actually started all the way at 2577, and at our max charge of 46 grains, we achieved all the way up to 2714. Looking along the way, it's actually a pretty interesting graph. Looking at our chart, it looks like at 43.9 grains, 44.5 grains, 45.3 grains, and 45.9 grains, there seem to be fairly similar velocities for a reasonable charge weight around those. And if I was going to load 5-shot groups, around those charges is certainly what I would pick to do my 5-shot strings. Though, like I mentioned, I'm not sure if fireforming in these cases is going to move those nodes around or change its velocity curve in any way. So, who knows, guys? Maybe after they've been fireformed, it'll look completely different. In case you guys are wondering, I'll just throw up a quick chart. You can see when I performed this initially with SIG brass, you can see the actual velocity differences that I saw from the initial firing to the actual once fired brass when I performed the same charge twice to see if it did make an effect on the pressure curve. But who knows, only time will tell if we rerun this test and we actually find out if those nodes are still in the same place or if those nodes are actually wide enough that it doesn't make a significant difference when and if we repeat this test. And just for fun, guys, if you'd like to see it as we shot these groups, I'll roll the video and you guys will be able to see that. Since this data is loosely based on data we pulled off the Sierra website where the max charge was actually 45.9 grains, but that was based on the 150 grain Sierra Match King projectile, we really don't have specific data for this particular projectile to know where we are as far as pressure. We might be a little bit hot for this projectile, but you guys can decide this is simply the data that I generated and exactly how I did it. And speaking of pressure, let's take a look at the brass. So as you can see, we're rolling the brass across the screen. It should be fairly noticeable. The primers really aren't flattened at all. However, once you get up to that top charge at 46.0 grains, you can see there is some pretty significant primer cratering on that load. However, backing it down only a tenth of a grain to that 45.9 grain, there is hardly any primer cratering on that primer. In previous loads when I've used the Remington 7.5, I have had some slight issues with primer cratering in the small rifle primer brass, so maybe by switching to something like the CCI 41s, we'll be able to get rid of that primer cratering and still maintain these loads. On the brass, there's really no other pressure signs whatsoever, no ejector marks to speak of, and no other pressure signs that I could see. But since you're seeing the brass, you'll be able to decide for yourself. Since you guys see this load, you'll probably sometime in the not too distant future, there'll be a load workup coming down the road on the channel. We'll probably do some testing to determine if we can swap similar weight projectiles and actually have those nodes stay in the same place, or if we'll need to rework them up completely. At the end of the day, we're really all just about identifying an accurate load for our rifle as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. We may talk a little bit more about primer selection, maybe changing the neck tension setting, and any more ideas from some of the subscribers here on the channel. If you have any opinions, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and found it informative. If you have any comments or questions on the video, please put those in the comments section below. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell icon to turn on notifications, and hit the like button for the video. I'd really appreciate it. And like always, until next week, stay safe in small groups.